So as you've watched season 3 of Demon Slayer, you probably found yourself curious about the love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji. Well, despite her bubbly personality and the fan service elements to her character, she's actually one of the deeper characters in Demon Slayer. She's one of my personal favorite characters in the series, and she has one of the sadder origin stories in Demon Slayer when you add in all the proper context from a historical perspective, as well as the broader look at how her character is handled in the Demon Slayer manga. That's why in today's Demon Slayer video, we're going to be taking a look at the heartbreaking origin story of Mitsuri Kanroji in great depth, so that anyone who might still be on the fence for a character will hopefully be won over. So jumping right into it, Mitsuri Kanroji was born in the Meiji era Japan, which ranges from October 1868 to July 1912. When she was born, it started the problems for her that would forever shape her life moving forward. Out of all of her 5 siblings, she by far was the strongest, to the point where she was unnaturally strong and continued to grow stronger as she aged throughout the series. As a toddler, she was already lifting up 30+ pound stones directly over her head like it was a teddy bear, something that immediately freaked out her mother, despite the fact her own mother was known for being exceptionally strong as well. Mitsuri, due to unknown reasons, was born with 8 times the muscle density of a normal person. Due to having more muscle than the average person, this led to Mitsuri eating a lot more than the average person, enough to make a sumo wrestler get shocked by her appetite. And due to how her body was made up, the muscle doesn't appear on her frame at all, with the exception of her legs, which have a good amount of size to them, which makes a lot of sense just given the way that she uses agility in her fighting style. Mitsuri consumed so much of the Sakura mochi that it literally turned her hair color to that color that we know and love today. This and that strange hair color led to her marriage falling through, with the man who she was supposed to marry at age 17 breaking her heart in the harshest of ways possible, stating that their bloodline would essentially be that of, say, wild beasts because of her superhuman strength and her eating habits and her hair color. This led to Mitsuri trying to fit into the traditional expectations for Japanese women during this Meiji era. She dyed her hair, she did her best to try and hide her strength so she could appear to be more feminine to any potential husbands out there, and she even went as far as to try and weaken herself by eating less food than her body needed in order to sustain its strength. It's important to remember that despite how things are in modern day times, where we have movements such as the body positivity movement and feminism, and women aren't looked down upon for building up muscle, during this period in time, things were a lot different. Many women today say wait until their mid-30s or early 30s after they've had a career and they got started in it and they carved out their own lane in order to start a family. However, back in the Meiji era and for a very long time, for several decades afterwards, in a trope that you can still see in Japanese anime and manga today, women were looked down upon once they reached their mid-20s and they didn't have a husband and child, which led to the Christmas cake analogy that you see in anime and manga from time to time, which is basically that a woman over 25 is like a Christmas cake after the 25th of December. It's considered to be expired because it is no longer Christmas and the cake has seemingly lost its purpose. So during the era that Mitsuri is growing up, there were differences to what was expected of a modern woman of those times and what a modern woman is viewed as by many people today. Japan was changing during this time. The industrial growth was rapidly accelerating and new societal structures were being set up all over the place, but some things like gender roles and stereotypes still remained the same. The government during this time was advocating for the widespread belief of the phrase good wife and good mother for the roles of women. Being a wife who raised children and had a very strong hand in the raising of the children was something expected of women during this time. Mitsuri, feeling the pressure to settle down and start a family, went through great lengths in order to meet those expectations for a time to try and find another husband, and after she lost her first husband, she was desperate enough to try and fit into the role that society had set out for her, that she was compromising who she was as a person in order to fit into the life that society told her that she should want. After a lengthy period of time making herself suffer, Mitsuri finally found a man who was willing to love her enough in order to marry her. But this is where Mitsuri went from being the pretty girl who was looking for a husband to being the dog who finally caught the car that he was chasing. Just as that dog that finally caught the car doesn't really know what to do with it once it has it, neither did Mitsuri when she was first propositioned for marriage by the gentleman who wanted to marry her for the second time. After doing some self-reflecting, Mitsuri decided that enough was enough, and she began to wonder if her pretending to be someone who she wasn't truly deep down inside would ever lead to a happy marriage, which ultimately this relationship didn't work out either, just like her first one didn't. It It was then that Mitsuri did meet a man who was not turned off by her large appetite and her even larger than life levels of strength. However, the problem is that this man was already taken. The man in question was the head of the Demon Slayer Corps himself, the ever so sickly Ubuyashiki, who told her that she must instead cast aside the expectations of society and all those societal norms and instead embrace the strength and the fact that she's different, and this ultimately caused her to enter into the Demon Slayer Corps. As a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, she didn't have to hide her enormous power, but instead she could just be who she truly was without any type of fear. This led to Mitsuri getting the idea to start looking for a husband while inside the Demon Slayer Corps, since Demon Slayers were already stronger than most normal humans. So her thought was that anyone powerful enough to be a Demon Slayer Corps member or even a Hashira would be strong enough to not be intimidated by her appetite or raw power. This played a role in her getting stronger and rising up to the rank of Hashira, and during this time she would actually catch Rengoku's attention, who would train her in the art of flame breathing, and she would serve under him going on a mission until she would eventually cast aside using flame breathing in order to make her own breathing form, the love breathing style, which is an off branch of flame breathing, and it was better suited to draw out her full power. The reason Mitsuri's origin story is both sad and it's good writing is that it directly ties into her goal as a character, and where her character ultimately ends up at the end of the series, where she finally finds the love that she's been searching for. Her story is a story with the message that it's okay to be different than everyone else, and that you shouldn't try to change who you are just to try and appease people who might look at you funny for being different. It teaches us it's never okay to change who you are in order to fit in, which, given Demon Slayer is a shonen that appeals to a younger audience, it's a message that is very much needed, especially in this era of social media right now. We've all been there at some point in time in our lives, either as children or teenagers or as adults, where we feel the peer pressure to say or do or go along with something out of the fear of being the odd man out or that need to want to be accepted. Human beings are naturally social creatures who long to be wanted by others, be needed by others, desired by others. It's not really in our nature to be alone. It's why even in the days of the caveman, man would form packs and tribes because there was safety in numbers. It made hunting a lot easier, and for survival reasons it was needed. Biologically, it was needed to pass down your genetics to the next generation in order to ensure that your gene pool will survive. It's a very primal desire, and that's why I kind of like what you see with Mitsuri's character. Mitsuri looking for love and looking for it in all the wrong places for an extended period of time is very significant. During this time, she was deeply unhappy and she was suffering greatly. It shows us that despite her intentions and the sacrifices she was making, because she wasn't being true to herself, when she did finally find that potential husband, it was a relationship doomed to fail because it was a relationship that's built on a foundation of lies. Just as a house that's built on a cracked foundation will eventually fall, the same is true for a relationship, not just between a man and a wife, but any relationship between two people as well. It's why the ending payoff for Mitsuri, where she does finally find love in the form of a fellow demon slayer who does truly care for and accepts her for who she is, it's the ultimate cap off to her story and her character arc and growth, which makes her breathing style, being called love breathing, so poetic, because Mitsuri's character arc is one of understanding the value of self-love, and that's truly why she is one of my favorite characters in this series. I go as far as to say that she's a top 3 favorite character for me. However, this is going to be it for this Demon Slayer video. Click here to check out these other Demon Slayer videos you see on the screen right now.